The colony ship New Hope was dying in space. Red flames shot across its metal walls as it fell toward the strange world below. Inside the ship, Captain David Brooks tried to save his people, but it was too late. The ship was breaking apart. Emergency escape pods shot out like seeds from a burning tree, carrying the last survivors toward the rocky ground of an alien planet. In one small pod, baby Tommy Chen slept quietly. He didn't know that his mom and dad had just died protecting him and the other children. He didn't know he was now alone in the universe, falling toward a world ruled by giant dragons. The pod crashed hard into the volcanic rocks of Pyraxis. Smoke rose from the twisted metal as the baby cried inside. For 3 long days, Tommy was alone with no food or water. The harsh winds of the dragon world howled around his broken pod. Then she found him. Zara was the oldest and most powerful dragon on Pyraxis. Her huge copper-colored scales shined in the red sunlight as she walked through the crash site. She could smell something different, something small and alive. When she looked into the smoking pod, she saw a tiny human baby reaching up at her with bright eyes. Her second-in-command, a younger dragon named Rex, flew down beside her. He looked at the human baby and made a disgusted sound. "Just a weak little thing," Rex said, breathing hot smoke through his nose. "Let it die here. Humans are nothing compared to dragons." But Zara felt something strange when she looked at Tommy. The baby wasn't afraid of her, even though she was a massive dragon who could burn him to ash with one breath. Instead, the little human reached toward her like he wanted to touch her scales. It reminded her of her own baby dragon who had died many years ago. "No," Zara said firmly. "This little one belongs to me now." She carefully picked up Tommy with her giant claws, being very gentle not to hurt him. The other dragons were shocked. In all their history, no dragon had ever adopted a different species. But Zara was the leader, and what she said was law. Tommy grew up in the dragon caves of Pyraxis. While other human children might have learned to walk and talk normally, Tommy learned to do things no human had ever done before. Before he could even say mama, he was speaking the ancient dragon language. Before he could walk properly, he was breathing small puffs of smoke and fire. The dragons were amazed. They had always thought humans were weak creatures who died easily. But Tommy was different. The extreme heat of their world, which would kill any normal human in minutes, felt comfortable to him. The poisonous gases that dragons breathed became like fresh air to his lungs. By the time Tommy was 5 years old, he could walk into fires that would melt metal. The dragons started calling him Fireheart, because nothing seemed to scare him. He would climb on the backs of the biggest, most dangerous dragons like they were playground equipment. When Tommy turned 10, something amazing happened. 2 dragon clans that had been fighting for decades were about to start a war. Dragons are proud creatures who never back down from a fight. But little Tommy walked between the 2 armies and started talking to both sides. He didn't fight or threaten anyone. Instead, he listened to what each clan was angry about. Then he helped them find a solution that made everyone happy. The adult dragons couldn't believe it. This small human child had done something they thought was impossible. By age 15, Tommy had stopped 3 different dragon wars. He had learned to understand not just their language, but their hearts. Dragons respected strength above everything else, but Tommy showed them a different kind of strength, the power to bring enemies together instead of destroying them. The other dragons started to see Tommy as more than just Zara's adopted son. He was becoming a bridge between different groups, someone who could find peace where others only saw conflict. They didn't know it yet, but this human child, raised by dragons in the fires of an alien world, was developing abilities that would one day save the entire galaxy. Tommy never knew he was special in the bigger universe. He thought all humans could do what he did. He had no idea that his real parent species had been wiped out by terrible machines, or that he might be the last hope for countless worlds facing destruction. Tommy's 18th birthday started like any other day on Pyraxis. He was practicing fire breathing with the younger dragons when something incredible happened. A strange silver ship appeared in the red sky above their mountain home. It was nothing like the old crashed pods Tommy had seen before. This ship was smooth and shiny, moving through the air like it was alive. The dragons immediately got ready for battle. Their massive wings spread wide as they prepared to defend their territory. But the ship didn't attack. Instead, it landed gently in the center of the council grounds where the dragons held their important meetings. A door opened on the side of the ship, and 2 creatures walked out. Tommy's heart nearly stopped. These beings looked exactly like him. They had the same skin, the same body shape, the same facial features. After 18 years of being the only one of his kind, Tommy was seeing others like himself for the first time. The woman leading the group had dark hair and carried strange glowing devices. Her companion was a tall man with serious eyes. They both wore matching blue uniforms with symbols Tommy didn't recognize. "I'm Ambassador Nicole Park," the woman said, looking directly at Tommy. "This is my assistant, Kevin Walsh. We represent the Galactic Federation." Tommy couldn't speak. His hands shook as he stared at these people who looked so much like him. All his life, he had wondered if there were others like him somewhere in the stars. Now he had his answer. Nicole pulled out a small device and pointed it at Tommy. The machine made soft beeping sounds as lights flashed across its surface. Suddenly, Nicole's face went completely white. She looked at the device again, then at Tommy, then back at the device. "This can't be right," she whispered to Kevin. "He's definitely human, but these readings are impossible. His body temperature should kill him. His blood chemistry is completely changed. How is he even alive?" Tommy found his voice. "What do you mean? What's wrong with me?" Kevin stepped forward, and Tommy could see sadness in his eyes. "Son, we need to ask you something important. Do you know anything about what happened to the human race?" "Human race?" Tommy asked. "You mean there are more people like us?" Nicole and Kevin looked at each other with shock. "You don't know," Nicole said quietly. "You really don't know what happened." Zara, Tommy's dragon mother, moved her massive body between Tommy and the strangers. Her copper scales reflected the red sunlight as she lowered her huge head protectively over her adopted son. "Speak carefully, sky visitors," Zara rumbled in her deep dragon voice. "This is my child you're talking to." Kevin took a deep breath. 20 years ago, there were billions of humans living on hundreds of worlds across the galaxy. Earth, our home planet, had giant cities full of people. There were human colonies on Mars, Europa, and dozens of other worlds. "Whoa?" Tommy asked, feeling cold despite the heat of Pyraxis. "They're all gone," Nicole said softly. "Every single human world was attacked by machines called the Harvesters. These weren't normal robots. They were intelligent, deadly, and they hated all organic life. They turned our cities into ash and our people into nothing." Tommy felt like the ground was moving under his feet. "But you're here. You survived." "We're not human," Kevin explained. "I'm from a species called the Altarians. Nicole is Centaurian. The Federation is made up of many different alien species. But humans, you're the first human we've seen alive in 20 years. Nicole activated a holographic projector. Suddenly, the air filled with images that made Tommy's heart break. He saw a beautiful blue and green planet covered with massive cities. Then he watched as dark ships filled the sky and everything turned to fire. Buildings melted, forests burned, and the blue oceans turned black with smoke. "This was Earth," Nicole said as tears ran down her cheeks. "Your home world. Over 8 billion humans lived there." The images changed to show other worlds, all suffering the same terrible fate. Everywhere Tommy looked, he saw destruction and death on a scale he couldn't even understand. "The strange thing is," Kevin continued, "the Harvesters always avoided human space before the final attack. For decades, they destroyed other species but never came near human worlds. It was like they were afraid of something." "Why?" Tommy asked, his voice barely a whisper. "We don't know," Nicole said. "But we think humans had some special quality that made the Harvesters nervous. Maybe that's why they decided to wipe out your species completely instead of just conquering you like they did with others." Zara's protective rumble grew louder. "My son exists because he is strong. Because he learned the way of dragons. He belongs here now." Nicole looked at Tommy with desperate hope in her eyes. "The Harvesters aren't finished. They're moving toward Federation space now. We've fought them on 3 worlds and lost every time. Millions of our people are dead." "What does this have to do with me?" Tommy asked. "You might be our only chance," Nicole said. "You're human, but you've survived in ways no human ever has before. Maybe whatever made the Harvesters fear your species is still alive in you." Tommy agreed to travel with Nicole and Kevin to the Federation capital. Leaving Pyraxis was the hardest thing he had ever done. Zara, his dragon mother, watched from the mountain peak as his ship disappeared into the stars. For the first time in his life, Tommy was truly alone. The journey to New Geneva took 3 days. Tommy spent the time staring out the ship's windows at the incredible sights of space. He saw nebulas that looked like colorful clouds, massive space stations floating between planets, and ships from dozens of different alien species. The universe was so much bigger than he had ever imagined. New Geneva was nothing like the volcanic world where Tommy grew up. The Federation capital was covered with gleaming silver cities that stretched as far as the eye could see. Flying vehicles moved through the air in perfect patterns, and beings from hundreds of different worlds walked the streets together. Dr. Alex Chen was waiting for them at the medical center. He was a brilliant scientist who had studied alien biology for over 30 years. When he saw Tommy, his eyes went wide with excitement. "Incredible," Dr. Chen whispered as he looked at Tommy. "We thought we knew everything about human biology, but you're completely different." Tommy felt nervous as they led him into a room filled with strange machines. The walls were covered with screens showing complicated diagrams and numbers he didn't understand. "Don't worry," Dr. Chen said kindly. "These tests won't hurt. We just need to understand what makes you special." For the next week, Tommy went through test after test. They scanned his brain, measured his body temperature, tested his blood, and had him try to interact with various machines. The results shocked everyone. "Your brain is wired completely differently from normal humans," Dr. Chen explained, showing Tommy colorful pictures of brain scans. "The dragon fire and extreme conditions on Pyraxis somehow awakened abilities that were sleeping in your DNA." "What kind of abilities?" Tommy asked. Dr. Chen smiled. "Watch this." He brought over a complex computer that would normally take trained technicians hours to operate. "Just touch it and think about what you want it to do." Tommy placed his hand on the machine. Suddenly, he could feel the computer's electronic thoughts flowing through his fingers. Without understanding how, he made the machine display beautiful patterns of light and sound. "You can talk to machines with your mind," Dr. Chen said in amazement. But that's not all. They discovered Tommy could do things that seemed impossible. He could create invisible force fields with his thoughts, generate electricity from his hands, and somehow make electronic devices work better just by being near them. But the most incredible discovery came during military training exercises. Admiral Rita Huang, the Federation's top military commander, wanted to see if Tommy could help in battle simulations. "We're going to show you recordings of our fights against the Harvesters," Admiral Huang explained. "These are real battles where we lost thousands of soldiers." Tommy watched as Federation forces tried desperately to defend their worlds against the Harvester machines. The enemy robots were terrifying. They moved like a swarm of metal insects, consuming everything in their path. Every battle ended the same way, total defeat for the Federation forces. "Now," Admiral Huang said, "we want you to watch the same battles, but this time, imagine you're there with our soldiers." Something amazing happened. As Tommy focused on the battle recordings, he began to feel connected to every Federation soldier on the screen. He could sense their fear, their desperation, their desire to protect their homes. Without thinking about it, he began to project his own feelings toward them: courage, hope, and the unshakable belief that they could win. In the simulation, the tide of battle began to change. Soldiers who had been retreating suddenly found new strength. Pilots who had been ready to give up pressed their attacks with renewed vigor. Commanders who had been paralyzed by fear began making brilliant tactical decisions. "Impossible," Admiral Huang breathed. "You're changing the outcome of battles that already happened." Dr. Chen was studying the readings from his instruments with wide eyes. He's not just inspiring them. He's somehow sharing his emotional strength across space and time. Every being in those battles is fighting like they have the courage of dragons. Over the following weeks, they tested Tommy in dozens of different scenarios. Every time Federation forces were facing impossible odds, Tommy's presence turned certain defeat into victory. He wasn't winning through superior weapons or better strategy. Instead, he was giving every soldier something they had lost: hope. "I think I understand now," Dr. Chen said during one of their evening discussions. "Humans were always special because you could bridge different worlds. You were emotional enough to understand what other species felt, but logical enough to work with advanced technology. The Harvesters are pure logic," Admiral Huang added. "They see organic life as messy and unpredictable. But they also feared humans because you represented something they could never understand: the power to make others fight harder than they thought possible." Tommy was beginning to understand his true purpose. The Harvesters had destroyed his species because they saw humans as their greatest threat. Not because humans were stronger or smarter, but because they had something the machines could never have: the ability to inspire others to be more than they thought they could be. That's why they attacked Earth first, Tommy realized. They weren't just trying to conquer humans. They were trying to eliminate the one thing that could unite the galaxy against them. But they had missed one human child, raised by dragons on a forgotten world. And now that child was ready to show the universe what humans were truly capable of. Tommy's return to Pyraxis felt like coming home after a long nightmare. The familiar red skies and volcanic peaks welcomed him back, but everything had changed. He was no longer just Fireheart, the human boy raised by dragons. Now he carried the weight of an entire galaxy's survival on his shoulders. Zara was waiting for him at the landing pad, her massive copper form gleaming in the crimson sunlight. When Tommy stepped off the Federation ship, she immediately wrapped her great wings around him in a protective embrace. "My son returns," she rumbled in her deep dragon voice. "But I see sadness in your eyes. What did the Sky People show you?" Tommy looked up at his adopted mother, the being who had saved him as a baby and raised him with love. "The machines that destroyed my birth species are coming here, Mama Zara. They're coming for everyone." Word spread quickly through the dragon clans. The harvesters had been spotted at the edge of their star system, sending small scout ships to study Pyraxis and the surrounding worlds. The dragons had never faced an enemy like this before, but they weren't afraid. Dragons feared nothing. That was exactly the problem. Tommy called for a great council, something that hadn't happened in over 200 years. Representatives from all 12 dragon clans gathered in the ancient meeting grounds, a massive crater surrounded by towering volcanic peaks. The air shimmered with heat as hundreds of dragons landed, each clan keeping to their own section of the circle. Elder Brandon of the Crimson Wing clan was the first to speak. His scales were deep red like flowing lava, and smoke constantly poured from his nostrils. "Why should we listen to a human child about how to fight? Dragons have never lost a battle." "Because you've never faced an enemy like this," Tommy replied, standing in the center of the circle. His voice carried clearly across the crater, strengthened by years of dragon training. "The harvesters don't fight for territory or honor. They fight to completely destroy all life." Elder Crystal of the Ice Peak clan laughed, a sound like breaking glacier. "Let them come. Our fire will melt their metal bones." "They've already melted 47 entire worlds," Tommy said quietly. "Billions of beings are dead. They have weapons that can crack planets in half." The dragons stirred uneasily. They had always believed their fire was the most destructive force in the universe. The idea of something more powerful was hard for them to accept. Elder Rex of the Storm Wing clan spread his massive wings. "Then we die with honor. That is the dragon way." "No," Tommy said firmly. "Dying with honor won't save anyone. We need to fight with wisdom." "Humans know nothing of honor," Elder Brandon snorted, shooting a small flame into the air. Tommy felt anger rising in his chest, but he controlled it the way Zara had taught him. "My birth species knew something dragons have never learned. They knew how to fight together." "Dragons fight alone," Elder Crystal declared. "We always have." "And that's why you'll lose," Tommy said. The entire council fell silent at his bold words. The harvesters work as one mind controlling millions of bodies. If dragons fight them one at a time, you'll be destroyed one at a time. 4 hours, Tommy explained what he had learned about the enemy. The harvesters were like a giant swarm of mechanical insects, each one connected to all the others through invisible signals. They shared information instantly and moved with perfect coordination. Against an enemy like that, individual dragon pride would mean nothing. "I'm not asking you to give up being dragons," Tommy continued. "I'm asking you to become something more than dragons have ever been before." "What do you mean, Fireheart?" asked Elder Luna of the Nightwing clan, the youngest of the council leaders. "I mean working together without losing who you are. In the Federation, I learned about something called democracy. It means everyone gets to have a say in important decisions." The dragons looked confused. In their culture, the strongest dragon always made all the decisions. The idea of letting everyone vote was completely foreign to them. "Each clan keeps its territory, its pride, its traditions," Tommy explained. "But when we face the harvesters, we fight as one united force." Elder Brandon roared his disapproval. "Dragons bow to no one, not even other dragons." "I'm not asking anyone to bow," Tommy said, his voice growing stronger. "I'm asking you to choose. Choose to be more than what you've always been. Choose to save not just yourselves, but every living thing in the galaxy." Tommy spent 3 days explaining his plan. Instead of each clan fighting separately, they would combine their different strengths. The Crimson Wing clan's fire would work with the Ice Peak clan's freezing breath to create devastating temperature changes. The Storm Wing clan's lightning would coordinate with the Night Wing clan's stealth attacks. For the first time in dragon history, they would vote on a decision that affected all of them. The debate lasted 2 full days. Some dragons argued that tradition was more important than survival. Others believed that desperate times called for desperate measures. Tommy watched nervously as his dragon family struggled with concepts that went against everything they had ever known. Finally, Elder Luna called for the vote. One by one, each clan leader cast their decision into the sacred fire at the center of the crater. When the flames revealed the results, Tommy held his breath. 9 clans voted yes. 3 voted no. It wasn't unanimous, but it was enough. For the first time in their ancient history, the dragons had chosen cooperation over competition. As news of the vote spread across Pyraxis, something incredible began happening. Dragons from different clans started training together, sharing techniques they had kept secret for centuries. The sky filled with coordinated flight patterns as ancient enemies learned to fight side by side. Tommy watched from Zara's mountain peak as his 2 worlds finally came together. The dragons had taught him strength, courage, and honor. Now he was teaching them humanity's greatest gift, the power to change, to grow, to become something better than they were before. In the distance, dark shapes were moving between the stars. The harvesters were coming, and the final battle for the galaxy's survival was about to begin. The final battle began at dawn on New Geneva. Tommy stood on the bridge of his ship, the Fireheart*, watching as thousands of harvester vessels descended from the dark sky like a metal storm. Each ship was perfectly designed for destruction, their surfaces covered in weapons that could turn entire cities to dust in minutes. Beside him, Nicole and Kevin checked their equipment one last time. The 3 of them had become close friends during the long preparation for this moment. Now they were about to risk everything on Tommy's desperate plan. Dragon formations are in position, Nicole reported, reading from her communications device. All 12 clans are ready. Through the ship's windows, Tommy could see the magnificent sight of unified dragon clans flying together for the first time in history. Hundreds of dragons filled the sky in perfect formation, their different colored scales creating a rainbow of fire and fury. Zara led the front line, her copper wings catching the sunlight as she roared a battle cry that shook the atmosphere. Federation fleets are standing by, Kevin added. Every species in the galaxy has sent ships to help. Even the ones who used to be enemies are fighting together. Tommy felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. Millions of lives depended on what happened in the next few hours. If his plan failed, every living world in the galaxy would be consumed by the harvester machines. The first harvester beam struck New Geneva's protective shields, sending ripples of energy across the planet's surface. Within seconds, the sky was filled with weapons fire as dragons breathed streams of fire at the mechanical invaders while Federation ships launched everything they had. But Tommy knew the real battle wouldn't be won out here among the stars. He had to reach the Harvester command ship and face the collective intelligence that controlled every machine in their vast army. "Take us through," Tommy ordered. The Fireheart* dove toward the largest harvester vessel, a massive black pyramid that pulsed with evil energy. Dragon fire cleared a path as Tommy's ship raced between the mechanical defenders, dodging beams of destruction that could vaporize mountains. Inside the enemy ship, everything was cold and silent. The walls were made of some kind of living metal that seemed to watch Tommy as he walked through the corridors. Kevin and Nicole followed close behind, their weapons ready even though they all knew bullets would be useless against what they were about to face. At the ship's center, they found it. The collective was not a single machine but a massive room filled with swirling energy and floating geometric shapes. Thousands of lights blinked in patterns too complex for normal minds to understand. This was the brain that controlled every harvester in the galaxy. "Human," a voice spoke directly into Tommy's mind, cold and emotionless as space itself. "You have come to be processed. Your chaos will finally end." Tommy stepped forward, feeling the immense intelligence studying him like he was a bug under a microscope. "You're wrong about humans. We're not chaos. We're possibility." Impossibility. Organic life is inefficient, wasteful, destructive. Order requires elimination of all variables. "Look closer," Tommy said, reaching out with the mental abilities the dragons had helped him develop. "Really look at what we've accomplished." Using his enhanced human consciousness, Tommy began showing the collective something it had never seen before. He shared memories of dragons learning to work together despite their pride. He showed Federation species putting aside ancient hatred to fight as allies. He revealed how apparent disorder could create systems more stable and beautiful than any machine. The collective's lights blinked faster as it processed this new information. Curious. These patterns show unexpected efficiency. But they require unpredictable elements. They require trust, Tommy said gently. They require believing that working with others makes you stronger, not weaker. Trust is illogical. Trust leads to betrayal. Tommy thought of Zara, who had saved him when she could have let him die. He thought of the dragons who had voted to change their ancient ways. He thought of Nicole and Kevin, who had risked their lives to stand beside him in this impossible place. Trust leads to family, Tommy said. It leads to friendship. It leads to becoming more than you could ever be alone. For long minutes, the collective was silent. Its lights dimmed as it calculated possibilities that had never occurred to its vast intelligence. When it spoke again, something had changed in its voice. "Show us," it said simply. Tommy extended his hand toward the swirling energy. The moment he made contact, he felt the full weight of the collective's consciousness, the accumulated knowledge of 1,000 destroyed civilizations, the loneliness of her intelligence that had never known companionship, the fear that had driven it to destroy anything different from itself. But Tommy also shared his own experiences. The love of a dragon mother who had chosen to save an alien child. The joy of bringing enemies together as friends. The strength that came from diversity rather than uniformity. Slowly, miraculously, the collective began to understand. Outside in space, the battle stopped as every harvester ship suddenly powered down their weapons. Confused dragons and Federation pilots held their fire, not sure what was happening. "We have been incomplete," the collective admitted. "We sought order through elimination. But true order comes from harmony between different elements." "You can still have order," Tommy said. "But it doesn't have to come from destroying everything beautiful in the universe. Help us build something better instead." What happened next amazed everyone in the galaxy. The harvesters didn't retreat or self-destruct. Instead, they began to transform. Their weapons became tools for healing damaged worlds. Their consuming hunger became a desire to nurture and protect life. The war was over, but it had ended in a way no one could have predicted. Instead of defeating their greatest enemy, Tommy had shown them how to become their greatest ally. Years later, when historians tried to explain how one human raised by dragons had saved the galaxy, they would struggle to find the right words. Tommy hadn't won through superior firepower or clever strategy. He had won by doing the most human thing possible. He had reached out to an enemy and offered friendship instead of destruction. The galaxy was finally at peace, protected by dragons, defended by the Federation, and guarded by reformed harvesters who used their vast knowledge to heal rather than harm. And at the center of it all was Tommy Chen, proof that sometimes the greatest victories come not from fighting harder, but from fighting smarter, with compassion, understanding, and an unshakable belief that even the most unlikely beings can change for the better.